All right, I'm going to just put a couple short posts together. There's a couple things that we need to do for arguing the permit to carry problems that we're experiencing right now. Okay, so this one is about the Heller test. And the Heller test is a term that we need to start using. We need to make the Heller test a term that starts to get used in courts, okay? And so what is the Heller test? Now, there's a lot of information that came out of Heller, right? And probably when we start to talk about historical analogs and at the time of the founding, yes, that all came out of Heller and ended up in Bruin, and now everybody talks about it in Bruin, but it was back in Heller. The actual decision in Heller reads, assuming Dick Anthony Heller is not disqualified from his Second Amendment rights, the district must allow him to register his handgun and issue him a permit to carry it in the home. Okay, so we're gonna have to break that sentence down. That is the decision, though. Okay, let's break it down. Okay, assuming Dick Anthony Heller is not disqualified from his Second Amendment rights. If you search Heller on that, and if I was going to do a search, word search, I would just type in insane. So they actually talk about it in previous pages of Heller discussing the oral transcript, but DC tells the court that assuming he's not a felon or insane, that's what it says, and then they cite a page of the oral transcript. Okay, so disqualified from your Second Amendment rights, the way that we understand it as New Jersey citizens from the Burton case in 1968, has always been the fit elements of society versus the unfit elements of society, right? The criminals and the people that meet the disqualifiers of 2C58-3, put on their domestic violence, felons, advocating overthrowing the government, and you know the list because you have to check it off every time you buy a gun. Every time you apply for a permit, you got to run down that list and check off all those boxes, okay? So we all know the difference between qualified and unqualified in New Jersey. What does that mean to us in a post-Bruin world? Well, this is what it means. If you're qualified to exercise your right to keep arms, which would be for us 2C58-3, then you're automatically qualified to exercise your right to bear arms. And you have to understand, it's not two rights. So it's not a Second Amendment right to keep arms and then a Third Amendment right to bear arms. And Thomas actually said in the McDonald case, Thomas said, it's not subject to an entirely different set of rules. And he's talking about the Second Amendment. But if you broke that down a little bit further, you're not going to subject the right to keep arms to an entirely different set of rules from the right to bear arms. So let's go back to disqualified if Dick Anthony Heller is not disqualified. Why does that matter to us in New Jersey? Let's go to page 2138 in Bruin. And then on note 9, it says that New Jersey's, or the states, and now this is basing it on the 43 other state comparison, right? And so it says you're allowed to have a background check, you're allowed to have fingerprints, and you're allowed to have a mental health check. And in there, I think they have some form of qualifications as well, okay? So 4 things that they're allowed to have. Now, you've got to read that. It doesn't say an endless amount of background checks. It doesn't say an endless amount of fingerprints. It doesn't say an endless amount of mental health checks. You're either qualified or disqualified. What does that do for us in New Jersey? Well, you already have a 2C58-3B firearms identification card. And by rule, most of us, 98.5%, 99% of us, bought the handgun that we qualified with a 2C58-3A permit to purchase. We've already been qualified. So really, we're already qualified for the carry permit. Now, New Jersey fails to realize that. They're still kind of stuck in 1924. And remember, in 1924, there was no FID card, there was no permit to purchase. And the whole reason that, we have both is because in 1966, when A165, the legislation that became the gun control law, became law, they had to accommodate for the people who already had handguns prior to 1966. And so you could actually get a permit to carry in, let's say, 67 and 68 without the firearms identification card. And so Sills explains it. It's too long to go into here, but basically what he was trying to do was cover the out-of-state purchases. So people were going to Maryland and buying guns, and then there was mail-order guns from a place called Seaport Traders in California that were mail-ordering handguns back in New Jersey. And all Sills was trying to do was all of those pre-1966 purchased handguns, all the Maryland guns, and all the California mail-order guns. Sills just needed, if you were going to carry, that you had a background check on those micro quantity of guns that were available out there, because most people would go get the 2C58-3 firearms identification card and then the 2C58-3A permit to purchase, and then they would already have the background check on that particular handgun. So Sills was just covering all the pre-purchased and out-of-state guns with that law. Now in 78, the law changes. You have to have the FID card to get the permit to carry. Once New Jersey did that in 78, you're already qualified for your 2C58-4 permit to carry because you've already been qualified with your 2C58-3B firearms identification card. And under Bruin, the state is only allowed a set of fingerprints, a background check, a mental health consent form. And then once they issue you that SBI number, now they've got you in the database, and all they have to do when you apply for your permit to carry is type in that SBI number, boop, it comes up. If there's no criminal history from the day that they issued you that SBI number to the day you apply for your carry permit, you're already qualified. That investigation needs to go no further. Okay, let's wrap this up. We don't want to make these too long. The Heller test. You're either qualified or you're disqualified. Understand that, start to use it, start to explain it to people when they keep talking about the delays in the investigation, the delays with getting to your references, the delays in getting your mental health consent form back. It's all bullshit. You're already qualified to exercise your Second Amendment rights.